My manager sent me a copy of this report, which has 500,000 rows of data, and someone tried using this data in a dashboard and encountered all sorts of issues. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this data set just to see what's going on with it. Let's go ahead and turn on a filter, and let's look at the city destination column. We can see duplicate cities. Some of the cities are misspelled. Now let's go ahead and look at the order status column, and we can see that we can combine some of these actual statuses. So now I want to use a pivot table to summarize this data set to get better visibility into some of the different type of errors that we may have. So let me go ahead and insert an actual pivot table into a worksheet. And then I'm going to drag these columns that you see here into these fields. So now I'm going to go ahead and close the pane because I don't need this. And while in the pivot table, I'm going to right click, expand, collapse, and I want to collapse the entire field. I want to do this so that way I'll have better visibility into the actual data. So now we can clearly see the misspellings. We can also see that we have far more statuses than what we actually have when we actually use the filter in the raw data. So now I want to move this pivot table, and let's go ahead and make sure that we're in our data set. And then I'm going to go to the pivot table analyze tab, click actions, and let's move our pivot table around here. That should be fine. So now over top of the pivot table, I do want to insert an actual slicer. So still make sure that I'm in my data set, click filters and then slicers. And let's go ahead and use the order status column. So now I want to go ahead and make some quick changes to the slicer so that we can really see just how many unnecessary statuses we have here. Let's go back to the raw data set. And let's go ahead and correct the spelling for California City. And let's go ahead and correct the misspelling for Dallas. So now you can see that we've taken care of the misspellings. Now let's go ahead and go to the statuses because I need to combine these statuses so that way they'll display correctly. So I'm going to change arriving to delivered because that's what it should be. And I'm going to change shipping to shipped. And we should only have the 4 statuses that you see here, which is ordered, processed, shipped, and delivered. And that's it. So now that we've gone ahead and made these changes, let's go ahead and refresh the data by clicking refresh all just to see what type of impact that has on our slicer. So let's go ahead and go back to the pivot table. And now we can see that some of the buttons are disabled. And that's because there is no longer any data associated with these statuses. So let's go ahead and go into the slicer settings, the options, and then we're going to go ahead and hide anything that doesn't have any data. And now we can see that those statuses are gone. So now that we've done that, we still have way entirely too many statuses. So we have to go ahead and dig a little bit more to determine what's going on. Let's go ahead and go back to our raw data, and I'm going to use a little trick by using a formula called len. Now with the len formula, it'll actually tell us the total number of characters that are in a single cell. So we can see here that this cell actually has 11 characters. This one actually has 20, but visibly to the eye, they both look the same and it looks like they show ordered. So if we go ahead and look here at the formula bar and look behind the word order, we can see that we have all of these extra spaces, and that's what's causing the characters to not appear to not be the same. And this is the reason why we're getting all of the different statuses that we saw on our slicer, because they're not considered to be the same value. So let's go ahead and clean this data even more. So I'm going to go ahead and use this formula, use the trim function, so that way we can take care of those extra spaces that we see. Now that I have this formula popped in, I'm going to go ahead and drag this all the way across so that way I can capture all of my data that's in columns A through E, because I need to trim all of that data. Let's go ahead and double click to fill down the formula. Now while my data set is selected, I'm going to copy the data, and then I'm going to paste values only to get rid of the formulas. Now that our data set has been trimmed, this should take care of the extra spaces. Let's go ahead and get rid of this to the right because we no longer need that. Now we can see that Excel actually converted my quantity and date columns to text, and I actually need these to be converted to a number. So let's go ahead and select these columns minus the actual header, and then we're going to click this little triangle here, convert to number. Now we can see that the triangles are gone. So now I want my date column to be formatted as an actual date. And let's go ahead and refresh our data and go back to the slicer. So now we can see that we have the 4 statuses that we were expecting. So with this many errors, I do think that it's a safe assumption that there are duplicates with the actual order numbers. We should only have one order number, and that should be a unique value. So now let's go ahead and select the order number column. Let's go to conditional formatting. We're going to highlight duplicate values, and instead of using the default red color, I want to use green. I can already see that there are some duplicates in the actual list. So now let's go ahead and go sort this, and we're going to go to the Home tab, Sort and Filter, and then we're going to go to Custom Sort. So now I want to sort by color first, and then I'm going to add a level, and then I want to sort by the order number in ascending order. So now that we can see that our duplicates are filtered to the top, let's go ahead and resolve the duplicates. Let's go ahead and cut these cells, move these over to the right just for the moment. Let's go to the Data tab, remove duplicates, and you can see that we have 5 actual order numbers that are left, and they're unique. So now let's go ahead and cut these cells, and we're going to put them back in their respective cells. Let's go ahead and delete these blank rows because we definitely don't need that. So now that our data set is clean, be sure to be on the lookout for part 2, because I'm going to show you different techniques that you can actually use to stop this madness even before it begins. And I'm not going to say this out loud, and I'm just going to silently think this to myself. But like, boy, what are you over there doing? See you in the next one. Bye.